Always good to see you guys after a win and not the other way. So you guys look so much better every time we come in here. We get a victory. I'm telling you, it does something for my eyes, I think. Now to start, man, I never take for granted the power of the game of football. I never take for granted the ability to be here and be a part of our coaching staff. Probably one of my most satisfying times was to see David Montgomery this week going back to Cincinnati, going into his home. I'm trying to keep from being emotional, going back into his home and seeing his family, his sister, his just closest family members there, and to be able to see him throw a touchdown, to run a touchdown, and to do it in front of the people that he grew up with. And then also just some of the things that people have sent me where the actual Cincinnati fans were showing him and his family love. They know the process, and people have a tremendous amount of respect for, David, but also people have a tremendous amount of respect for the game of football. So, really, really excited for him that we were able to go into his hometown and come away with a victory. Really kind of stands out bigger to me than anything. I thought, offensively, continuing to find ways to score touchdowns in the red zone and finishing drives. There's still a lot of things we got to clean up, things we got to do at wideout. We played really clean on the perimeter. All offensively, mental errors were low, but there are things that we got to continue to get better at. And a huge shout out to our defense, of course, giving us those short fields and continuing to get takeaways. Now we're starting to play, complementary football, and looking forward to see the direction that's going to
go. Curious, just from the opposite viewpoint, you saw a lot of rock in this training camp and on the practice field. Team's going to have to lean on him a little bit more here. What did you like about the way, Rock defended your group?
Yeah, so first thing is physicality. He doesn't give. A lot of guys you can knock shoulders open and get stacked really easy. What he does is he does provide a tremendous amount of, conflict at the line of scrimmage, not only there, but at the top of the routes where you usually can lean on guys and get, heavy leans on people and maybe give them a little something at the top. He's done a really, really good job of staying close, staying sticky. And then he has an understanding of safety play and corner play, so he knows exactly where he can take some of these chances, where his safety's going to be, where his safety's supposed to be, where sometimes you can be out of place at corner, just not seeing the whole thing. So the combination of those things. And then in the one-on-one settings, what I really, really liked about him is the way he plays through the hands. He's done a really good job in the offseason of, we may get the start of the catch, but between the process of the catch and the tuck, he's done a good job, strong, playing through the hands. And we've been able to see him, of course, played against him when he was in Baltimore, and then now having him here is exactly what we thought he was.
You Dan said something the other day about Kansas City and just how much respect he has for them and how all they do is win. I mean, just kind of the respect with that. You've been with some good programs. I mean, the Steelers way back when. What is the difference in your eyes between those programs that win and win consistently and the others that are trying to get there to that point?
Two things: leadership, locker room. It's that simple, man. Head football coach, general manager, ownership, leadership right there. That you got to make a collective effort and thought process that everybody's on the same page, that what we do is we win football games. That's got to be the number one part of it. And then the biggest part of it, or the functioning motor part of it, and not just the brain, is the locker room, right? It's what your great players will allow, and that's even upward, players to coaches. You want players that challenge coaches from a standpoint of making sure that they're ready to go and ready to play. I always felt like when I walked in, our facility off Water Street in Pittsburgh, that my responsibility was to those players to give them the best opportunity they could possibly have. And I feel the same thing that I feel here, and I know what they're doing in Kansas City. I know Matt Nagy personally. I know the coaches that are on that staff. I know what they believe, and I know how they do it. And only their beliefs, it only comes together if the players are on the same page. The locker room is the most important piece, is what St. Brown would allow the rest of our guys to do. It's the etiquette that our guys have in our meeting room because of St., because of Panay, because of JG, our leadership, on defense. They come prepared because of Hutch. It's not that they come prepared because of us. They come willing to learn because of us, but they're prepared and they're ready to go because of Hutch and the guys that are in the locker room. So I think those two things, just the leadership in the locker room, you get those things together and you can keep them together like you've seen in these places that we're talking about. That is why they consistently win. And it just, it becomes a part of a standard. It's not like an expectation of winning. They don't worry about winning football games. They just have a standard of how they work, the standard of how they practice, how they learn, how they teach, and they win because of it.
The 2023 game was your first with the Lions in the regular season. When you look at everything that's happened since then, what do you think about what that win in Kansas City on the opening night meant for this franchise?
Wow, it was huge, right? There was a lot of question marks, right? A lot of question marks. Coaching question marks, player question marks. Kind of what I remember is that our guys handled the lights and the noise, especially some of our young guys like Ja and our O-line. They handled a lot of the noise that was going on, and they were a really good football team. And I just remember that kind of setting us up for an understanding that we can win the tight ball games against great teams. I didn't know if it would be one way or other. We win big or we lose big there. I didn't necessarily feel like we would have a chance to lose big. It's just kind of the way that we feel here in Detroit. But we knew there was going to be one of those games, but we kind of found out that we can win tight games even with young people on the field, and maybe some people that are on the field that other people or other teams didn't necessarily like, that we found and being able to cultivate not only relationships but just their athletic ability and put it all together. So that was a big win for us, no doubt.
How important was the timing of that to get that win in week one to kind of set the tone for the rest of the season?
Yeah, well, hindsight, right? I don't know the true answer to that, but I will say this. It gave St. Brown the ability to see who Jahmyr Gibbs was, right? So once you see that there is a potential in a certain player defensively, right? You got to see some of our young defensive players for the first time. And once you get to see that, now Hutch can press these guys, right? Saint can press Jahmyr. It's like, that practice wasn't like, I saw you play 10 or 12 snaps in that game. You need to elevate what you do. So it put a tremendous amount of pressure on some of our younger guys to try to meet our A players, if you will, and become those A players as the year kind of moved on.
Potential. Jared was talking about Isaac after the game and just how the fact that he loves how Isaac uses his hands and catches the ball away from his body. This guy seems like kind of a no-brainer thing for a receiver, right? But we don't always see that. What makes Isaac maybe a little bit different in that regard? It's just strong hands, and we always do see him catching it away from the body. Quarterbacks obviously love that.
Well, first of all, it's observation. Right, so you got to give some credit to our scouting department. It is one of the things that we do scout. It's one of the things that we coach fundamentally. But running, first of all, for some people, is not even a natural thing. So when you're running at that speed and you're tracking, a lot of times it's more about the tracking of the football. He tracks the football well. A lot of times when you don't see guys extend for the ball, a lot of people think, they don't have strong hands. No, what happens is the ball gets up on them before they can adjust, and get their hands extended. It is one of his distinguishing characteristics. He extends to the catch. But not only that, once he extends to the catch, a lot of people will leave it there. Some way he has found a way just innately of growing as an athlete. We don't have a drill that I can show them to where he can get his body positioned, right, to be in the strongest position in multiple positions. He's been able to do it going all the way back to preseason, keep catching balls on the sideline or out of bounds. So he does have a distinguishing characteristic of being able to extend and the catch. And then now when you get into a 6'4" body type that has an extension like that, now your catch radius goes out of the world. Now Jared can, throw it the size of a garage door, and now we can go get it, which is both tracking and, physical tools and gifts that came with it. But a lot of times when you don't see guys extend, it's not that they don't have great hands. Their tracking ability has to become improved.
With Khalif, potentially, maybe, missing a little bit of time here, you guys might rely on Isaac a little bit more. Just how comfortable are you guys with his development now through 5 weeks? Not a ton of production, but getting more opportunities and making plays when he does get a chance.
Yeah, it's very hard. I think the hardest role, of not being on the field is the number 4 receiver, because the number 4 receiver has to know all 3 spots. And last week he came into the game, when Leaf went down, and we were very hopeful for Leaf. But when Leaf went down, it's one of those situations that he comes in, he has not practiced these plays. He's had to learn these plays. We've gone through these plays. He's been tested on these plays. But the splits, the alignments, he has to have those down when he went in, and he did a great job. We feel really good with where he is right now. We haven't really had to put a rookie in a position to where they play the number 4 role truly, where they're playing the X. Potentially, we can move him around to play the F and the Z. So I think that's kudos to who he's become as a young player, and going back to camp, he really dove into the ball. He didn't look at the Z position and say that's my position. He looked at the entire concept and he tried to learn it.
Talked about
Time for two more, please.
the power of the game of football in the context of David's return, but I'm just curious, like, as a concept, what does the power of the game of football mean to you, and how has your perspective on it maybe changed over your life?
Okay, so without football, you get discipline from parents, right? You get discipline from, maybe your pastor, or there's people in the community that's around. With football, the discipline comes in so many different ways, right? It comes from the locker room. It comes from just you do something one week, a certain way every week, and you see that discipline show up. And then the next week, maybe you go out on a Thursday and then you cramp up on a Friday night. That discipline teaches you a different way. That's one way to look at it. But the other way is it changes lives. And I'm not talking about financially. I'm talking about it gives young men and young women and people who are around the sport, it gives them the sense of family from a different standpoint. Because football family is different than the normal family. Family, you get born into it. So that's blood. You're going to always, and what we do in football, you're not born into it. You can earn it, right? And you can lose it at the same time. So just a little bit of a different level of how it changes lives, and it makes you understand when you go into your normal family, you can't just be a person that's born into the family. You have to earn it, right? And if you're not careful, you can lose the ability to have the effect on others. So just that power of what that means, and like David, he's going to be special no matter what he did. He's an Eagle Scout and all those things, but somewhere in there, football had a major impact in being able to get up off the ground. You get hit, you got to get up. You get hit again, you got to get hit. You got to get up. So somewhere in there, it definitely changed his life, and that's kind of what I mean. It's just a life changer, man. And when you're a part of it, you don't even have to be tackled in it. You can be a coach. You can be, people in our nutrition department. They see what we go through. We're all hip to hip, man. It's a team thing. It's crazy. It's a great game.
We hear about unselfishness with this roster all the time. J-Mo's a little bit of a stretch here where he's not seeing a whole lot of targets, and a couple times he's seen maybe some on the first drive and then none the rest of the game. How is he embodying that unselfish attitude week to week?
Well, if he's not unselfish, he's fooling the hell out of me. Because he, especially at the receiver position, when you do what he did in the run game, in this game, this was his best, cleanest, most physical run game, and it's coming off a situation where it didn't go the way that he wanted it to go, and then he comes into the game where he didn't get his he didn't get as many plays or make as many plays as he wanted to make. There's no question about it. You're a receiver, you better want the ball, but on the sideline, every single play, he was so excited for everybody. I was a little shocked. But at the same time, listen, he knows why he's here. We expect, more plays to be made. We want more plays to be made. We want him to have more opportunities. And as we grow through this, what is helping him to do, though, is he's becoming a more complete player in the midst of all of this. So hopefully as we get rolling, we have the best pass catcher, we have the best blocker, and we have two of them on the field at one time.
I asked Dan this earlier too, but I'm just curious, when you watch how teams have to play Hutch, and obviously he's on a pretty good stretch of football right now, just how important fundamentally is he to what you guys do defensively when you watch how other teams have to react to him?
Well, the thing is, one, you're talking about a tremendous player, and the thing you're watching other teams prepare for him. Are they sliding the protection there? Are they chipping him on the way out? Stuff like that, and that also helps us be able to game plan, knowing what they got to do to react to him.
With McNeil coming back, what can that do next to DJ, next to Tyleek, and you think there's a chance he could come back this weekend?
Well, that's right there. That's a Dan question for me. But, just seeing him move around and stuff like that, we just, you can see the talent that this young man has. So it's just anytime we can get him back, the more the merrier.
Tyleek's batted down quite a few passes lately. Is that a skill that, you can teach him, or is that,
We just kind of talked about it. It's funny, we do it every Friday in individual, but he just kind of has a knack for it, getting into that lane and getting the hand up just right. It's unbelievable knack, and I just hope he keeps doing it.
Another unique thing with Tyleek is that ability to go down to one knee to anchor. You just don't see a lot of defensive linemen that are able to do that. What is it about that technique that you like?
Well, the thing about it just makes him hard to move. He's a big man to start with, but right there, it's just the concept is just making it hard for them to move because the play ain't lasting that long. If you can keep him up there, now our linebacker's going to be gone. So right there, so it just helps them. When you watch a lot of people defending the run and they get displaced, and there you go, you open up a seam. So we just want to try to be as firm as we can in our gaps. And his athleticism, he's a big man. He's dropping down low. He can hold the point there. That's a skill set that he is really good at.
You guys blitzed on 85 with 45 dropbacks with Browning. Given the situation with the cornerbacks, is it going to be more, onus on the defensive on the four-man front just to get to the quarterback with the situation you're dealing with now?
Well, the thing is, it's like we're kind of a next man up organization, so we kind of do what we do, and we expect the next guy to be ready to go. We sometimes we rush 3, we rush 4, 5, 6, whatever it takes. Is just the way the game plan comes out.
You guys have been using Al put in a little bit that second and long situation, passing downs inside quite a bit. Would you sort of see in him to think that he could have success there, and what does he give you when he's playing there?
Well, the thing is, we saw it from OTAs. Came back after in the off season, it was just watching him in the off season. You can see the progress that we felt like he was making, and then we're kind of trying to utilize everybody's skill set. He has really got a unique burst inside, and you adding a fast guy inside. Sometimes the speed on guards, they are not as used to it as tackles. So they see speed every week. Guards, now you got a really fast guy on a guard, or a guy we want him inside, but he's going to loop outside for contain. You need speed to do that. So we're just trying to use the skill set that he has to help us.
You join the staff and someone's in rehab mode like McNeil was for the months that he was in. What do you do to learn about that player and that person? How do you establish that relationship?
Well, the thing is, when I came in and you start looking at the tape, and you saw that when he went down or whatever, but that young man has been here all off season in the building. He's in every meeting and everything. So, our relationship kind of formed just one, watching him from afar, two, having in the meetings every day. There's some guy, times when they're rehab or whatever, we lose sight of him, but he's been in every meeting asking questions like he was getting ready to play. So from that standpoint, I think the relationship is good. We'll just be happy when he gets back.
Jack Campbell isn't exactly in your room, but how does he impact your guys up front, especially with his run abilities?
Well, with Jack, I've been around a lot of good linebackers, but he has to be one of the best at communicating. I remember one day in practice in training camp, he made a check that we hadn't even installed yet and got everybody lined up and executed it flawless. He communicates, and everybody knows he's tough as nails, and he's going to play with like his hair on fire. But the communication, getting everybody on the same page, that's a common effect for a front guy that knows he wants you here, he wants you to take this stunt. You can go fast. He gave you the call, execute it. So he's such a common effect. He's such a great leader and a humble guy. He's just a tremendous guy as well as a football player.
Does it kind of surprise you how quickly he's been able to do that?
Yes, as far as his knowledge of the system and the expertise of the game, just to make sure we're in the right checks, make sure we're in the right call. If the headset go out and he don't have a call, he know what to put us in. We do something here every week. He knows if this situation comes up in the game, put us in that call. And that's a lot for your players as young as he is to be at that point in his career already. That's impressive.
Kacy, you've worked with some really great defensive minds in Coach Zimmer and Coach Bowles. I'm just curious, Shep's really young in this role, obviously, right. But in your, half season of being around him, what have you been really impressed with about his leadership, his coordinating ability?
Really, kind of you hit it on all of it. One, he's an excellent leader. That's the first thing I noticed, to be such a young, excellent leader, and a very knowledgeable and extremely prepared. When we come in and we start presenting ideas, presenting our stage of the game plan, he already has a really good feel for what he wants to do, this and that. So that's what I'm like, that's really impressive to be such a young, and we just finished a game and he was already had half the game plan in for the next opponent. And just the preparation, the way he leads the guys and the way he coaches them, he can get on them 1 second and be joking with them the very next 20 seconds later. And that's a talent some people can't do. Some people, coaches that I've been around, haven't mastered that art that he has. He can coach them hard, but then love them up on the other side, and that's a unique quality to have as a coach.
Elkwin signed here a year ago yesterday. He hadn't played football in a long time before that, but he's having a really productive season for you guys. What impresses you the most about a player in year 8 who's able to kind of catch a second wind and have the kind of production that he's having right now?
Well, sometimes everything just works out right. The system, the deal, he's healthy. For whatever reason, the light just comes on for some players. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's sooner. Maybe it's just a different voice. Somebody was saying it the same thing. They just said it a little differently. So it's so many different intangibles there. But my hat goes off to a guy like that who, in some ways, recreating his career.
When we talked to you last, I asked you about some of the new guys, and you described Tyler Lacey as big as a house, and now he's carved out kind of a nice defensive role for you on the edge in place of Marcus.
Right.
What have you liked about just his fit as a 300-pounder out there on the edge for you?
Just the physicality, you sit there and where he plays, the matchups, you would like to say you have a favorable matchup when you got a 300-pounder on some of these tight ends, smaller tight ends that we'd have to go against. And his ability not only to be size, but strong and firm and setting the edge. That's kind of, coaching defense, you want to create as many advantages as you can. And if you feel like you got a stout guy here, you got a fast guy there, you can start playing chess with the pieces.
The last 2 games, none of the defensive linemen have dropped into coverage. Is it easier to, coach and streamline, I guess, the responsibilities where, their obviously sole objective is really to, pressure the QB or stop the run?
We need to talk to Shep about that. I want him to drop a little bit more. No, actually, we have it in our system, and it just hadn't been triggered. But there's calls for them to drop. It just hadn't been triggered. It's just like we kind of scratch where it itches in our system. We have, you'd be surprised the things we have. This guy could be coming, this guy could be dropping. It just hadn't triggered itself. But it's not out of their realm of possibility in their job description. We don't look at it and say you just to play double teams, slip, and rush the quarterback. No, you might have to cover 2 to the flat. There's a whole lot in the system that could be triggered. And that's the fun part about coaching in this defense. You can get lulled to sleep. All I do is coach double teams and pass rush. But now he got to cover this. He got to stunt here. He might have to do that or play. He's a shade that might line up at defensive end. That's the fun part about it.